So the purpose of this workshop is to help people that use tanks from level 10 or 11 onwards. We have made instructional videos for people that haven't got to level 10 yet, so you can contact me and then I'll WhatsApp them to you. But the tanks really gets kind of complicated here from level 11 upwards. Today we'll only cover up to level 15, but I think in that 5 levels I'll introduce most of the algorithms you'll need to get up to probably level 30. After level 30, it's everyone to himself. It gets very complex at that stage. Okay, so I'm going to start with level 10. And those of you that have the game with you, it will be good if you could start and see whether you can do level 10. The reason why I wanted you to get to level 8 is because it blocks you every 5 levels. So if you get to level 8, then at least you can go past to level 11. So I want you to look at level 10. I'm going to pause. This is very much interactive, and then I'll give you a minute or two. Tell me if you've been able to do it, and then I'll discuss the solution. So I'm going to be quiet for a while now. Okay, so let's look at the solution for level 10. I've put it down here. So very important in tanks, you always have to start with the start token. And then clearly your tank is pointing to the right, so it turns left. And then it moves forward 1. And then it turns right to point towards the rubble. So you can shoot the rubble away if you're pointing your tank towards it. Notice we've got 2 shoots in a row, so it shoots away the 2 sets of rubble, stacks of rubble, and that you'll see there it can shoot over a distance, so you don't need to be at the rubble to shoot it away.
Okay.
Okay, that's important to note, especially for later problems. Once you've shot away the 2 sets of stacks of rubble, you move forward until you're at the wall. Now the problem here is if you didn't watch the instructional videos, you will only have 3 move forwards in your game. So you've now used up all 3 move forwards. You've used up all 3 move forwards. Now the problem, the natural thing is to move right and then move forward to the star. But you don't have a 4th move forward. So what we do here, and this is relevant from level 3, is to turn left and then reverse into the star. So you use your move backward. And that trick is used quite often, especially up to level 10. When you run out of move forwards, you turn the wrong way and you move backwards. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Right, now this is a pen and paper exercise which all of you can do. It introduces us to level 11 upwards, and it's got to do with, okay, I don't want to say what it's got to do with, I'm going to give it away. So the activity that you have here is you've got a 5x5 grid. Imagine none of the blocks have been colored in. Okay, so you've got 25 uncolored blocks. You've got 5 commands. Color, which means where your pen is currently, you color in that block. And then you move to the right, you move to the left, you move down, and you move up. So notice these commands are different to tanks. It's not, first of all, tanks, you inside the tank. So turning left is relevant to where you are in the tank. Here the right, left, down, up are simply movements to the right of the screen, to the left of the screen, to the top of the screen, and to the bottom of the screen. So just understand that's just another way of looking at instructions in a grid. So if you start in the top left-hand corner and you want to color in those 5 blocks, I want you to see whether you can write down the commands to color in those 5 blocks. So you color, C is color where I'm currently am. Right is moved to the right, L is moved to the left, D is moved down, and U is moved up. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to write down those commands. Okay, so let's go to my PowerPoint, then you can see I'm going to not go in presentation. So that is, obviously you can go C down right, or you could go C right down. If you look at that, you can go to the right and down, to the right and down, or you can go down to the right. So I chose the one where I go C right down. Now Natalie has given it away. Who else can see something in this solution? So what you should be able to see here is a pattern. The CRD is repeated 4 times, and then very important for coding is to see that there's a C at the end. That's not part of the pattern. Okay, so you've got CRD repeated 4 times. So the way we do this in coding is we say repeat times 4. Then what do I repeat 4 times? Color, go right, and go down. And then I have the command end in coding that simply says whatever I'm repeating stops here. So whatever I do after the end is not repeated. In this case, it's the color, the last color. So just some jargon if you want to talk coding logo jargon, buzzwords. What you see here is called a repeat loop. On most languages, it's called a for loop. But the important thing here is a loop. A loop in coding is something that's being repeated. You get 2 types of loops. The for loop is this one we have here. The part of the loop that's repeated, the C, R, and D, is called the body of the loop. And then the end obviously indicates where the body stops. And then the last C is not repeated because it's not part of the body of the loop. Now you use a repeat loop in Tanks or a for loop in coding when you know exactly how many times you want to repeat the loop. Okay, so you know exactly how many times you want to repeat the loop, then you use a repeat loop. Later I'll refer to the while loop, which is something different. Okay. In Tanks, those who have their tokens, you can look for your repeat token, and then you'll see you'll have tokens that says ×3, ×4, ×5, and ×6. So see whether you can find them, those of you who have, and you obviously always need the start one as well.
And I'm guessing the times ones go on the bottom of the repeat.
Yeah, I'll do that now. Yeah.
Okay.
What I've done now is in my PowerPoint presentation, I use shades of the squares and triangles to show which joins. Those of you that have the tokens, you'll see they fit into each other like puzzle pieces. You can't put them in the wrong place. So the way the repeat would work is you'll take the repeat and you'll see there's the line shadows that goes at the bottom. So if you put this at the bottom here, it says you're going to repeat something 5 times. Now, what do you repeat 5 times? Whatever you put on top. I don't want to give that away now because the next activity is an exercise. So whatever you put on the top is what's repeated 5 times. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So if we go back to the next screen, hopefully this is not difficult to see. Can anyone tell me, or please give you a few seconds, all of you, if you look at these set of commands coding, what happens in this set of commands? If you're in Tanks or just on the screen here, what do you think would happen?
the tank will move forward 3 times.
Yes, perfect. So if you notice at the bottom is how many times is something repeated, and on top what is repeated, the move forward is repeated. So the tank moves forward 3 times. Okay, so if you go to level 11, see whether you can use your tokens, those who have tokens, to try and work out the solution for level 11. Now, obviously, we're using a repeat. Okay, so let's see how we would. Got it.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's see how we would do it. Okay, now I need to go to this mode. So you start, you take your repeat, you put it next to the start, and then obviously you are repeating 5 times. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves to get to the star, and you're repeating the move forward 5 times. Now you'll notice that if you have the puzzles, you've got to turn it upside down for it to be able to fit into the repeat token. So this means the tank moves forward how many times? 5 times. Okay, got it? Right, so can anyone tell me, this is just a quick activity, how many times will the tank move forward now?
Six times.
6 times, yes.
Yes.
So remember let's call it the syntax or the grammar of tanks says you've got the repeat token. At the bottom, you say how many times something is repeated, and then anything that goes to the top. Notice I didn't position them correctly here, but anything on top of the repeat is repeated 3 times. So in this case, it's 2 move forwards. So the 2 move forwards are repeated 3 times, which takes you forward 6 times. Any questions? Does it make sense? So it's very important to play when you play tanks to note that what's on top of the repeat is what's repeated. You would go on after the loop. Remember that C at the end would be on the right hand side of the repeat. Then you carry on with your code without repeating anything. Okay, now this is a tricky one because there's something you don't know yet, but let's test it. Give me the commands. There's 6 commands. Can anyone read me aloud? What are the 6 things that are happening in the correct order? I need some interaction, otherwise I feel very lonely on this side. Remember the rule of the repeat. What's on top is repeated.
Let me take a guess.
Okay.
This one it will go forward 3 times, and then it will shoot also as well 3 times.
Okay, so do you say 3 move forwards and then 3 shoots?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
5.
It's not correct, but it's not because I haven't told you how it works. But I'm specifically want different solutions so you can see what's right and what's wrong. The next attempt.
Let me try as well.
Hello?
Yes, talk to me. What do you think will happen?
You'll move forward and you'll shoot. You'll move forward, you'll shoot, and you'll move forward and you shoot.
Yes. So there's 3 ways of interpreting what's repeated. The first solution was move forward 3 times, then move forward, shoot 3 times, which is incorrect. The other way people sometimes interpret it is by reading it from the top. Shoot 3 times, then move forward 3 times, which is incorrect. The way you must understand the repeat is the action goes from the repeat away from it. So it starts next to the repeat, move forward, shoot. Then it repeats, move forward, shoot. Then move forward, shoot. Okay, so you've got to get that sequencing correct. So you start at the repeat token and you move away from it. So the order is move forward, shoot, move forward, shoot, move forward, shoot. Does that make sense? So never think that you've got to read from the top or that it's done. Like the first answer was move forward 3 times, then shooting 3 times, which could mean something different. Okay. Right, now what I'm going to talk to you now is not real coding probably, but it's a trick that we've built into tanks that will help you with some of the more trickier solutions. It's called early termination. But before I get to that, those of you that know maths, if you look at this repeat command on the right hand side, who wants to tell me what you think should be happening here?
I think the tank to move forward infinitely.
Yes, so it's your infinity sign at the bottom. So if we were in mathematics, the tank would move forward infinitely. Now, obviously it can't move forward infinitely. We've got a finite screen. But the very important thing to understand with tanks is whatever commands you give it, as soon as it reaches the star, it will stop. It will never try and do the other commands. So whether it's an infinite or whether there's 2 extra commands that you still have to do, when it reaches the star, it stops. That's why we call it early termination. So technically this repeat should go on infinitely, but after the tanks move 5 times, it will just simply stop because it's at the star. So you need to remember this when we look at the next activity. So early termination is a very important concept to understand. And you'll see now I'll do a next activity and then it might make even more sense. Okay, so now we're at level 12. I want you to forget about your limited tokens, move forward or whatever. You look at the star and I want you to write down F, B, L, R, whichever order you want to. That will take you to the star. So you just write down the sequence of commands that will take you to the star. And try and do it physically on paper because you need to see something happening here. Did you all see that if I say forward, forward, right, forward, forward, right, forward, forward, that would take me to the star. Are you all happy with that?
Yep.
Now you need to think slightly out of the box to make use of the early termination rule and to find an easier solution than writing all of these commands down. What else can you add to this sequence of commands to get a pattern that's repeated 3 times? Anyone? So because we want to use the repeat loop so that we don't need to write down everything more than once. So what can I add to this FFR? Remember, remember the early termination. I'm just looking at those letters now and I want to have a pattern. Forget about what you see on the left-hand side of the screen. What can you add to those sequence of letters to get a pattern that's repeated 3 times? Are you guys shy or scared to make a mistake? Why is everyone so quiet? Okay, so let's go to the next command. Okay, now I don't want to give you the solution immediately. Do you see that if I add another R here, I've got FFR repeated 3 times. So I might have given away the solution, but see whether you can see these 3 commands, right, move forward, how you would add them to this solution to get the tank to go to the star. Anyone? What would you put on top of the repeat to simulate what I've got here? FFR, FFR, FFR.
I'll put 2 forward and 10 right.
Yes, 2 forwards and turn right on top. Remember the sequence? It goes
turn
from the
right
repeat
and right.
outwards. So it's move forward,
Yes.
move forward, turn right. Move forward, turn right. Then move forward, and at this, when it reaches this move forward the third time, it's at the star. So it will just ignore the last turn right. But we've just added this last R so that we can have a pattern that's repeated 3 times. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. Cool.
Okay. The guys that have tokens, were you able to play with that on your app, or am I too quick?
Yep, it worked.
It works. It's very important to understand this concept of the early termination, where you could put some extra commands in to get a pattern so you can use a repeat loop, but often the last time it's repeated, you don't need all the commands. As long as you've got something that you can repeat, so you use less tokens. Because if you had to solve this thing using just forward and backwards and left and right, you're going to use many more tokens, and it wouldn't be a very nice solution. Okay. So now we're getting to higher grade stuff. So if I'm going too quick now, come back later and we'll rewatch the video. I'm going to try and be finished by 5, but I won't rush too much. If you look at this level 14, what I have on the left-hand side is a solution, but it's not a very nice solution. See whether you can work out what this solution does. Remembering the concept of early termination.
So it would do extra shots that are unnecessary?
Yes, because it needs to move forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So infinitely, it's going to move forward 8 times until it reaches the star, and it will stop, obviously. But to do that, it's going to shoot 8 times. It will work, but we only need to shoot 3 times. So shooting 8 times is not necessary. Okay, so I've seen learners do the solution. Something else that I've seen, which is interesting, learners say they don't like shooting, so they take the tank to turn to the right or to the left. They go past the rubble, and then they come in from the side. But that's obviously not a very optimal, good solution. So what I want you to do, if you have tokens, is I think I've given you all the tokens here on the screen that you need to solve this problem in a nicer way. I'm not going to move them around now. I want you to see whether you can look at the tokens I put on the screen or the tokens you have with you, and say to yourself, what is a nicer? We say this is optimizing my code, writing better code, so I don't do unnecessary stuff. Okay, so I'm going to show the solution on the screen. There's obviously, in this game from now onwards, so many different ways of solving it, but I think this is the best way. If I look at the problem, I need to shoot away 3 stacks of rubble, okay? So what I do is I say, let's repeat 3 times shooting. So if I've shot 3 times, the rubble will be gone. Okay. Now the tank can move uninterrupted down to the star, and it needs to move 8 times. But clearly I don't have 8 move forwards, and I don't have a times 8 repeat. So what I do is I put, now notice this is a second repeat. So the first one is shoots 3 times, and then it moves to the right, and I say repeat 4 times, and what do I repeat 4 times? 2 move forwards. Okay, so this code is going to shoot 3 times, get rid of the rubble, and then it's going to move forward 8 times to get the tank to the stop. Make sense? Yes.
1 tile shorter could even be repeat forward and then loop that for an infinite number of times.
Clever. So you could also say this. Yes, as I said, there's always more than one solution. So if you say that, it's move forward infinite amount of times, and then it will obviously stop when it reaches the start. Thanks. I love that. Can you see the kind of discussion you can have with learners when you do this? There's so many different problem-solving techniques and strategies. So it's great to interact with your learners while you're doing this.